sales is the most lucrative skill in the world, period. The problem is most sales advice out there today is outdated, cheesy, and can even keep you from getting the deals that can make all the difference in your career. This is the No BS Sales School, a podcast for entrepreneurs and salespeople who want to master the skill of selling without all the BS. Listen, if you're like me, you hate doing admin crap. Number one, because you're not good at it. And number two, because you know it's taking you away from the stuff that actually makes you money. So why are you doing it? Do what I did. Go to worksby.com right now and let them pair you with a real executive assistant. Once I started working with Cheryl at Worksby, my income went up 40% in 1 month, and my working hours went from 70 down to 40. It's a game changer. Go to worksby.com right now, book a call, and tell them Walker sent you. If you do, you'll get 2 extra hours of service for free as a bonus. So if you're ready to finally stop doing the stuff you hate and focus on the stuff that makes you money, go to worksby.com right now. That's WORXBEE.com. Tell them Walker sent you, and you'll get those 2 free hours. Welcome to the No BS Sales Podcast. I'm your host, Walker McKay. Today, I am super excited to have one of the coolest guys I've met. And I was on his podcast earlier, which makes me think higher of him. But the guy's name is Colin Mitchell. And he is the CRO, the Chief Revenue Officer of a company called Salescast, where they help people launch, manage, and grow podcasts. He's also the author of the not quite yet published sales transformation book. Welcome to the show, Colin. I'm so glad you're here.
Oh, man. Thanks so much for having me. We had a ton of fun when you came on my show, so I know this is going to be a good one. So hopefully your listeners stick around. And man, now you're the first one to mention the book. So now it's out there and I have to do it. Now I have to do it. So there's no turning back.
Among the things that got me excited was you and I are both interested in the word and in the action of transformation. And you've done a ton of that. And what I want to talk about today are mindsets and mindsets around transformation. So I'd love for you to take just 2 minutes, Colin, and tell me your story. How'd you get to be Chief Revenue Officer of Salescast? What was the path?
I will do my best to keep it into 2 minutes, and then I'll let you unpack what you feel is worthy of unpacking.
Good.
My story's pretty simple. I was raised by a single mom. My dad was never around, and we were dirt poor. I mean, we ate government cheese, and we bought our food with food stamps. And I was embarrassed to go in the store, hoping that friends from school wouldn't see me. I had to get creative and find my entrepreneurship bone early on if I wanted to get new shoes to play sports as a kid. And nobody was around to tell me that school was important. So didn't go to college, barely made it through high school. And I'm not like your typical person in sales that says, yeah, I had this big grandiose plan and it didn't work out. So plan B was, hey, I'll get into sales. For me, it was like there was no other opportunity. I had to literally beg and plead to get the opportunity to get my first sales job. So when I landed that job, you better believe I made the best out of it. And, at that age, I think I was about 22 or 3 at that time. And I was the first one in every day, last one to leave every day, came in on Saturday to do emails and get my list ready every single week, and worked my way up to the top pretty quick. Thought that I deserved a leadership role. They clearly thought I wasn't ready. I disagreed. So I left, got a leadership role somewhere else, made a lot of mistakes, learned a lot of things. And then at that point, started my first company with my wife. We grew that to $5 million in annual recurring revenue in 26 months, all fueled by sales, zero marketing. And then from there, I've started a few other companies. And the latest thing that I'm working on is Salescast, which is a lot of fun. Love the work that we're doing. We like to say at Salescast, we have 2 departments. We have sales and we have sales support, and that's it.
I freaking love that. So you had this, when I first heard you tell that story, you really came up rough. And you said this, if you don't mind my sharing, your dad was in prison. Yeah. And so not only was he not around, that was a big black, I'm assuming a big black cloud.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. He may even be there right now. I don't know.
Did you know him at all? Did he leave you,
Yeah,
or did you
you
never
know,
really know him?
yeah, you know, as a kid, as a boy, you desperately want a relationship with your dad, right?
Yeah,
Uh,
yes.
you know, there was several attempts of spending the summer with him and things like that if he was not incarcerated. And it was tough. You know, I was
Mm,
exposed to a lot of things as a young kid that I wouldn't wish any kid was exposed to. And, you know, visiting him in jail occasionally.
ugh,
And, you know, eventually I got tired of it. I'm like, hey, you know, tired of being let down, you know, growing up. And I was pretty much done with that. And, you know, but it took some time. And my mom had to work nights. So that meant I had a lot of freedom as a kid.
yeah.
And, you know, early on, I started to get into a lot of trouble myself. And, you know, I always joke, but I'm serious, man. If my kids, because I've got three and one on the way, if my kids give me half as much trouble as I gave my mom, I'm in big trouble.
So, I mean, a lot of us, feel trapped in our heads from our youth. I hear a lot of things like, I grew up with a shitty family, or I grew up in this, and that's why I'm not successful, right?
Yeah.
Or all these things. And I think some of it is, I mean, a lot of people grow out of that like you. How are you able to separate? How are you able to just say, I am worthy and I'm going to bust through this? I'm going to transform from this person who, ain't got much to somebody that realizes they do deserve much.
Yeah, yeah, I love that question. And I'll just say it. Look, I mean, everybody's got a story. Everybody, you know, not everybody. There's a lot of people who have a story, and there's a lot of people who have had it a lot harder than me.
Sure.
There's other people that have maybe have, you know, equal misfortune, or a little bit less, a little bit more. You know, you got to take ownership for where you want to go in life. And if you want to constantly be a victim and make excuses, that's an option. That's an option.
Right.
You know, for me, you know, I didn't grow up as a kid saying how I want to be in sales or I want to be a policeman or any of those things. Like the only thing that I knew is like, I don't want to live like this. And when I got that first opportunity, I knew this was my way out. You know, this is my way out to not have to live that life, to not be living check to check, to not be able to pay the rent, to having to live in a motel when we couldn't pay the rent, to, you know, being a little bit concerned about, you know, hey, can I get new clothes or any of those things that are horrible as a kid to have to even worry about or be stressed out. And so you have a choice, you know, and
Mm-hmm.
I honestly don't regret any of those experiences that I had,
Yeah.
because I firmly believe that you can turn struggles or misfortune into fuel to fuel your motivation and your grit and to do more, to do better. And I believe that that's what I was able to do. And I think anybody can do that with a proper mindset and determination. You know, I think one of the things that has really been a huge benefit to me in you know, the level of success that I've been able to achieve is that, you know, a lot of problems that would freak people out don't freak me out because I'm
Right.
like,
I've
man,
seen worse.
you know, this is nothing compared to, you know, going to visit your dad in prison or, you know, living in a motel or being exposed to the type of things that, you know, no kid should be at that age.
So maybe this is too early for this, but at what advice would you give to somebody who's 19, 20 to 23 thinking about going into sales? I don't care if they've had a a beautiful childhood or a fucking horrible childhood. What kind of advice would you give to somebody who's considering that career?
Don't do it. No, I'm just kidding.
Do the same. Stay the fuck out. Go
Pick
to law
another
school.
path.
Go
Pick
to law
another
school.
path. Yeah. No, I'm just kidding. I absolutely love sales. I think it's the best profession on this planet. I think that
Or some people. For some people.
yeah, it's not for everybody. That's for
Right.
sure. If you can handle taking a beating most of the time, then hey, this is for you.
Right. Right.
It's emotionally really, really hard and very stressful for a lot of people. They can't handle the ups and downs and the highs and lows that, having a sales job has. The best people in sales, whether they want to admit it or not, lose more than they win. And I don't care who you are. And if you say otherwise, you're full of shit.
And or you're just getting low hanging fruit. You're not really selling. I mean, right? I tell people, if you're closing more than say 60% of people you're in front of, you're probably not in front of enough people.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, it's very common, especially in the tech world, for people to get into certain accelerator groups and sell to everybody in the accelerator group and, make a business that's, a couple $1,000,000. But, that's only, going so far. That's not real sales. Real sales is, meeting people that don't know who the heck you are and, going down a path of showing them how you can help them with whatever problem that you solve.
Mm-hmm. How did you learn to sell?
Man, I'm a stubborn person by nature. So I learned by falling on my face a lot. Typically when I fall on my face, that's the best way for me to learn and be like, okay, I'm not going to do that
so
again.
How did you know, because sometimes we don't know what we don't know.
Yeah.
How, when you fall on your face, because I'll just, from my perspective, when I was young and getting started, I didn't know what good looked like. I didn't know what it was supposed to be. So I didn't, so if I was doing these things and I was not making sales, I didn't know if that was me or the process. Again, I was an excuse maker, right? So I couldn't tell what it was. How did you identify this is, what is not working that's supposed to be working? That's kind of a strange question, but
look, early on, I learned a lot of bad things in sales, a lot of bad things that
like what?
I had to unlearn. Just treating people transactionally and caring about nothing but my commission.
Yep.
That pretty much says it all.
Commission breath.
And in the beginning, like, what did it look like if it was working? I had more money in my pocket than I ever had before.
Right.
Yes. And you can get so far, but then you start to feel like crap and you're like, and then it doesn't work and you start to go after bigger deals and work with smarter people. And, our script was like this, man. It was, you call somebody who never talked to you before and you warm them up with some, pleasantries that they don't care about.
Right.
And then you go into your pitch and you throw out an offer. And if they didn't buy, you threw out another offer. If they didn't buy, you change the subject and then you throw out another offer. And my manager used to say, if you don't get an order, you better get a damn commitment for an order in the future.
Wow. Okay. So yeah, it was boiler room stuff.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And so I had to unlearn a lot of things. And then I had to start, listening to podcasts and reading books and reading blogs and following people on social media that looked happier than me and looked like, sales was not such a struggle, and just learn from other people and would try things. I'm big about testing new things, seeing what works, seeing what doesn't work. If it doesn't work, I'm totally okay with that because typically that's where the best learning happens.
Yep. So what were you selling first? What was the first sales job?
I was selling aftermarket printing supplies. So cartridges for printers.
Printage cartridges. That's right.
And the margins were juicy.
Okay. Yeah. You could make big bucks and everybody needed printer cartridges wherever they were buying them from, correct?
Absolutely. And we had a, product that worked well, that was, a lot less expensive. And, some of those machines, I mean, you sell 12 of them and you'd have, 1,000, 1,500 gross profit on the board.
Yep. So what does it have? Remember what your manager was holding you accountable for then? I'm just trying to think how management has changed. Yeah. Did your manager hold you accountable for something at that time,
like my number and hit
your numbers,
my activities and my numbers, and that was it. And if you hit your numbers, they'd care less about your activities.
Right. I find a lot of managers today just manage on the outcomes, right? And did you hit your number? Did you hit your number? When there's no visibility down to what did you do? And so sometimes you hit your number because you got a bluebird, right? Something shows up, you get lucky and somebody calls, but we're not managing that. And so I didn't know if that's where you started.
Sales has changed quite a bit, where there is more leadership that is more focused on results rather than activity. Yep. But in a lot of cases, it's still very activity quota, how many calls, how many discovery, how many demos, all that sort of stuff, how many emails, but now we got LinkedIn touches and social selling and all these other things that managers can't track and they hate it.
Right. Yep.
But a lot of those end up in the biggest deals. And then you got sales reps who sandbag deals so that managers aren't, breathing on the back of their neck. Hey, when are they going to close? When are they going to close? When are they going to close?
So part of the transformation, right? You went from being sales guy to sales leader at the second company. Was that a hard transition for you?
Yeah, it was, because I thought everybody should sell like me. I thought everybody should have the same drive as me. I thought that everybody should learn the same way as me. And that's not the case. And that was a rude awakening. But
what were some signs that you weren't connecting like that? What were some signs that you had?
I just had this incredible amount of drive based on my own life experiences. And that's not the case for everybody. If somebody, let's just say it, had a little bit of a more of a comfy upbringing, they may not have that same drive. If they can hit their paycheck and do the bare minimum, they might be happy with that. And that's totally okay. And maybe they should work in customer service, but you have to, and it's funny because I actually put a post out about this today. I said, I was a horrible leader. And I think it's very common for top producers to be promoted to manager.
Big mistake.
And it's a big mistake because honestly, in a lot of cases, your average performers are the best leaders.
I have a theory about that. What's yours?
Well, they typically are they're better people.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
They have more humility. They're more about serving others than themselves, where, a lot of top performers, they got a big freaking ego, and they're the worst leaders, the worst.
And sometimes when they're managing salespeople, they get their thrill from closing deals. And so they go to ride with the sales rep, and then they go and close the deals for them, which then basically castrates the sales guy. And also, so a couple things happen when you make your top producer the sales manager. You take your top producer out of the pool, so they're no longer producing. So you screw yourself one time, and then you put the guy who'd step on somebody's neck for a quarter in charge of the rest of your team. Yeah. Right. So it can really screw up morale. But it's weird, though, because people from sales, a lot of them that don't understand, see sales management as a promotion from sales. I would tell you that's like a curse. When anybody gets promoted to sales manager, I'm like, so they hated you over there, huh?
Oh, yeah. And it's so frustrating for top performers because they're like, I could do better myself. Why aren't, they constantly can't get out of that mindset of like, I'd rather be selling than trying to teach you how to sell. Right. Or, and I honestly believe that, and somebody commented on this post, something that was ridiculous, but I had to be polite because it was on social media. He said, I think, anybody who gets a promotion should take the opportunity, and it's an opportunity to learn and grow. And I think that's the worst possible thing anybody could say, because you're basically saying, I can learn how to be a leader at the expense of my team.
Right.
It's like,
yes,
come on. And so I think, honestly, to be a great leader, it's actually more personal development that needs to happen as a person than actual professional development is like, let me teach you these hard sales
leadership skills. Yes. Right. So how does somebody, it's kind of a random question, but how did you develop the right leadership skills? I mean, you're obviously somebody who is, transforming as part of your motto, as part of your sales stuff. How did you transform from salesperson to lead? You said you fucked it all up. What'd you do to begin to fix that?
Making mistakes and realizing it. And I realized that I'm the type of leader that wants to get in the trenches. I don't want to be the type of leader that's like, hey, I'm your manager. Here's your quota. Go hit it. Here's how I did it, and go do it that way.
Don't call me because I'm busy.
I'm the type of leader that's like, hey, here's this new way of maybe doing things. I don't know if it's going to work, let's go try it together and see what happens. And some people don't like that. And some people disagree with that. But I personally love sales. I love prospecting. I love cold calling. I love, testing new things like LinkedIn and video and whatever the case is. So I like to get in the trenches and say, hey, we're a team. We're together. It's not, I'm the leader. You're the
right. You're the employee. You're the follower.
I'm like, hey, we're on the same team. Let's go do this.
Mm-hmm. So you made a transition from being sales guy to sales leader, which you said was a difficult transition and one that you had to personally grow into. How about from employee to business owner? That's a pretty big transition too.
Yeah. So after being at that company and finding a better way of leading a team, I just started dating my wife at the time, and she was in recruitment. I'm like, hey, why don't you come over here? She was really unhappy in her job. See what we're doing. Maybe learn a little bit. And then eventually we just said, I think we can do this on our own. So we did. She left, and then I left shortly after. And then we started our first company together in 2010. And then it was a wild ride.
What were you doing then? Were you selling printer cartridges then?
Yeah,
too?
Same stuff. We were doing that. We were also doing more like IT services and hardware. And we had like over 1 million products we could sell. It's crazy.
You a VAR? Is that what that is?
Yeah,
Is that a VAR?
IT VAR,
Okay.
IT VAR. And then we really tried to get into more services, and I failed at a lot of that stuff. And then I started to be more in operations and in management and less in the trenches. And I got really unhappy. And I'm like, I don't like this. This sucks. I want to get back on the phone. I want to close more deals. And so I did that. I got more involved and back to sales and stopped trying to be a fancy marketer and all these other things that I wasn't after wasting lots of money and hiring expensive consultants and doing all kinds of stuff that I had no business doing. And then through that there, we were heavily reliant on the phones. And so we had a, large outbound sales team, and
large means 20 or 50 or 12 or how many?
I think we had about 30 to 40 people.
Wow.
And
call center stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. And so our phones were our livelihood, right? If we couldn't get on the phone, we couldn't make money. And this was, VoIP wasn't like new, but there was a lot of new providers and the quality still was horrible.
Yeah.
And we get drop calls and outages and all kinds of stuff. And we talking to people right in the middle of a pitch and, can't hear you,
Yeah.
And so I got really frustrated because, I'd walk in on the sales floor and everybody face would be red and be like, phones aren't working,
I just lost a $40,000 deal.
Yeah. I mean, people were getting there at 5 a.m. to hit the phones and work the East Coast, and to come in and, get up that early and be that committed. And then your technology not work sucked. And so I got frustrated, and there was a tech guy in our building, and he's like, man, I think I can throw something together that'll work better than all this crap you've been using. And I was like, dude, I'll try anything. Sure. And so he took a software, threw it on a virtual server. We connected it to a trunk provider, and it was the most reliable, stable thing that we'd ever used.
Wow.
And so from there, I'm like, hey, I think other people would pay for this and probably have the same problem as us. So then I launched a unified communications company and built that to over 6,000 customers.
So other people could tie into the same trunk system and use that. Is that correct? So that works?
Yeah. So we actually got we got a little bit more sophisticated from that duct tape solution that we built. And then we started selling it to people. Yeah.
And so did you see a difference in selling that service versus the other things you were selling?
Yeah, because, with the other business, we had a lot of contracts and we had a lot of great relationships.
It's repeat customers,
but we didn't have a ton of monthly recurring revenue. And also we worked, it was a cash flow monster because we worked with a lot of schools and government, and they always pay, but they never pay on time. Right. So we had
90 to 120 days.
Yeah. We had to pay our vendors. We had to pay our sales reps, which we paid them an insane commission rate. So, we were out a lot of money before we would see any cash. And so it was just, even being a $5+ million company, cash was tight a lot of times. And it was frustrating because it's like, I'm over here, working my ass off, and managing the cash flow could be a full-time job sometimes. And so, I was really eager to build something with a monthly recurring revenue. And we tried different services that failed. And then we kind of were very successful with the unified communications piece and solved a lot of problems for a lot of people. And then from there, I went on a podcast for the very first time. And that's when I met my co-founder, Chris. He was posting some interesting content on LinkedIn. And I think I sent him a DM like, why the heck are you posting this stuff? I've never seen anything like it before. And he was just being real. He's being real honest, being real open about him and his story and his struggles, good, bad, ugly, everything in between. And not a lot of people were doing that at the time.
Yeah.
And
Brene Brown wasn't famous at that point for talking about being vulnerable or being shamed.
Right. Yeah. Authentic wasn't sexy.
Right. Yeah. Shut up. Keep that. Yeah. I don't believe I'd have told that is the theory there.
Yeah. Or you get a lot of the, LinkedIn people saying, this is not Facebook.
Keep this personal crap off of here.
Yeah. Business is not personal. And it's like, I don't know what business you're in.
Very personal to me.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, people buy from people, right? I mean, there's a lot of people that are spending a lot of money on a lot of this psychographic stuff, right? Where it's like, hey, who are the people that are most likely to do business with Walker? Well, they're these people that they're not just this ICP of this person with this problem in this industry, of this size with this title. It's people that have these interests, which are aligned with your interests. So business is personal. If you're one of those that thinks otherwise, hit me up. I'm happy to debate it with you.
Right. It is. And I believe that businesses, ultimately sales is having somebody trust you enough to give you money to make a problem go away.
Yeah. Right? And then there's the whole camp of people that think people buy from people who know, like, and trust. And then there's people on the other side that are like, no, people buy from people that solve problems. It's in between. There's gray there.
It's
people
everything.
Buy from people that solve problems that they like and trust.
Yeah. Although I've got people that I work with that are vendors for me that I don't care if I ever have lunch with them. I don't care if I ever know their kids. I also have people that are close friends of mine that I know their wife and kids. And if I had a problem in an area that they were in, there's no way in hell I'd call. They're not somebody I trust. Yeah. So, there's obviously mixed. Those are two extremes, but I'm curious about this. This is a little random, but what's the difference between selling services and selling products in your mind?
I mean, in a lot of times selling products, it's a very transactional relationship. Mm-hmm. You need this thing. I have this thing at this price. You buy it. Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yep. In a lot of cases, maybe we develop a little bit more rapport. Maybe we develop a little bit more of a relationship. But a lot of products end up being in very saturated markets where it's like they can get this stuff from anybody.
Right. Becomes a commodity.
Yeah. And so service, and even in service, like there's a million, tech platforms that do the same damn thing, but it's a little bit more of a relationship sale.
Mm-hmm. Because you're actually, if you're providing the services, right, you're the one that's going to be doing that.
You're spending more time with them in the whole sales process,
right.
A product, it could be as simple as, I need this thing. Here's this quote. You buy it or you don't.
Right.
Yep. A service could be more like, okay, tell me about your business. What problems are you facing? What happens if you don't solve those problems? Here's what it looks like if we do solve those problems. What does that do for you? What does that do for your department? What does that do for your company? What does that do for you personally? Like, you're just spending more time with the people, and the relationship matters more.
Yep. I have my belief is that the two of those things, the difference between selling a product and selling a service, is that a lot of people that are selling a product let the product get in the way. My belief really is they're very similar. And I realize there's some products that you ain't got to spend a lot of time developing, that they're me too and no big deal. But the stuff that's more complicated and expensive, you do have to figure out what is it that somebody really wants. Because I typically, if you don't develop that, then people will try and buy just lowest price, whether that's the right way or not. And I often
Right.
feel like they screw themselves up if we're not really digging down to understand what they're looking for and how to fix this thing, what's important to them.
Yeah. Yeah.
What is-
In a service, there's more trust that needs to be established,
Yep.
right? Because in a product is a product is a
They're
product.
buying the product. Yes.
You know, maybe I don't price shop as much because I like you. Maybe, you know, I've had some bad customer service experiences with a competitor, so I'm buying
Yep.
from you.
Yep.
You know, there's that. But with a service, there might be several people that could deliver that service, but who do I think is going to deliver the best experience? Who am I going to enjoy working with more? Who do I trust has done it before? Things like that matter more.
100%. Hey, tell Colin, how would people get in touch with you? How would somebody find you if they want to find out either about your sales stuff that you do or about helping them with a podcast?
There is one very simple way to get into my world. Whatever platform you're enjoying this podcast on today, hopefully you are enjoying it. You can look for Sales Transformation, and we're dropping 5 episodes per week. And there's ways from there to find out about anything and everything that we're doing at any given time.
I highly recommend Colin's podcast, Sales Transformation. Find that any place that you're looking, that you're listening to podcasts, not only because he's invited me to be a guest on it, and it should be published next week, right? Which would be the same time this week, same time this one comes out.
Yeah.
But also, Colin's such a smart guy, and he's a great interviewer, and he's a hustler in a good way. So if you go to salestransformation.fm, that's how to find the webpage for his podcast too. You can go there directly. Guys, if you like this podcast, if you're enjoying it, please rate it and review it. That really does help. That helps expose this to more people. Share this with somebody that needs to hear it. Come back next week because we'll have a whole nother episode. Colin, thank you so much for being here. I hope people will sign into your podcast, will listen and share and say nice things about that as well.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Appreciate it.